Welcome to the Graybeard Chronicles podcast. Your hosts, Brian Halstead and Kevin Harkins, are two gray-bearded patriots who love God, their family and friends, and their country. The Graybeards are here to inspire, inform, and educate you on a myriad of topics they are passionate about. Brian and Kevin have a strong desire to share this with you to help you live your best life. Sit back and enjoy this amazing podcast as the Graybeards pass along the wisdom of the ages.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Graybeard Chronicles. I'm Brian Halstead.
And I'm Kevin Harkins.
And Kevin, we're here to pass along some wisdom of the ages. What the heck does that mean?
We're not perfect, but we do have gray beards. And that means we've got some significant life experience, some life lessons, and some perspectives that are worthy of passing along.
Well, I think that sums it up nicely. Let's get to it.
Kevin, what is going on, sir?
How you doing, Brian? Good afternoon.
I am doing well, thank you. I'd be even better if we weren't having a slight technical issue with the audio right now, but we're going to overcome it.
We have overcome it, and I can hear you fine. You look good. All's well.
All right. Sometimes you just got to be prepared for unexplained stuff to happen. And, we had this issue last week when we started recording, and we were able to reboot and get it straightened out, but it's acting up again. So
yeah,
must problem solve more and figure it out. But we are still prepared to go and move forward. We can make it happen. We can improvise. We can adapt, and we can overcome.
Semper Paratus.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Just in case you don't know what that means, and I know that you do, but always ready. That's
it has something to do with this service in the United States, this Coast Guard or something like that. You have some familiarity with that, right?
I do. The elite maritime fleet of the world. Yes, that's correct. That's how we fondly think of ourselves, and I think it's appropriate now that I look at myself on the camera with the window right there and the light coming in. I look kind of like deity or something. I mean, yes. Wouldn't you agree with it?
It's funny you say that, because I was actually thinking it. I was like, man, he looks kind of angelic today. I don't know.
Angelic, yes.
Yeah. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the sunlight. So it's not actually you. It's just the light.
I look like Moses after he came down from Mount Sinai and got the 10 Commandments.
And you're about the same age, maybe.
Yeah. Snuck that one in there.
Yeah, sorry. Throw me a softball. I'm gonna hit it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Sometimes you just got to be prepared for the witty responses of people. Prepared yourself to provide those witty responses when called upon.
That's right. Does that have something to do with what we're talking about today? Is that what you're hinting?
It might. It certainly could be a nice segue into that conversation.
Well, you should segue us.
All right, I'm segueing. So the conversation today is going to revolve around that very subject of being prepared. And it is a very, very, in my opinion, a very broad statement, right? So you can apply it to a whole bunch of different categories. But I wanted to talk about being prepared and to narrow the focus a little bit. My thought process with this is based on current events, right? So, we know that there's some horrific things that are going on around the world, and in particular in Israel right now. My thought process was to just talk with you and have a conversation about how people prepare for the potentiality of something like that in their area. We as Americans are very, very fortunate in that other than 9/11, we really have not been attacked like that on our own home soil. And I hope and pray that folks out there don't get complacent and think it's not going to happen, because I fear that there's a very strong possibility we could see things like what happened the other day in Israel and what continues to go on happen right here in our very own country. And I think people need to think about how they're prepared for that and what they would do in the event that that occurred.
Oh, that's a really good point. I actually did not did not go there when I was doing my prep for this, thinking that that's the direction that you were going to take it. But it's a very good point, and you're right. I mean, especially with with the basically the completely unknown or nearly unknown entity that we have coming across the southern border,
Right.
and what that means. I mean, there are probably maybe even likely a lot of really good people and a lot of really hardworking people and a lot of people who are going to honestly, once they sort of get settled in here in some sort of hopefully legal way, make a contribution to to the country in a good way. But they're not all going to be that way, and those are the ones you're probably really talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're spot on there. Of the folks, and we all know that our southern border is like a revolving door. You can just roll right up in there, and there's not a whole lot of being done about turning people away and really vetting who these folks are. So yeah, you're right. There's a lot of people, a lot of good people that have left really bad circumstances and are looking for a better way of life for themselves and their family, and you can't fault them for that, right? And I believe that those are the kind of people that absolutely will make a positive contribution to our society. And at the same time, there's no doubt there's some straight up criminals and just thugs from other places that have managed to weasel their way into our country, and they could just be waiting for the signal. So,
Yeah.
I think it's important for folks to, I'm not suggesting that you become a prepper and, have thousands and thousands of rounds of ammo and a bunch of weapons. And I'm also not suggesting that you shouldn't. I just think it's important to understand that you should think that that could happen. And what are you going to do? God forbid that it does.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with your family? What directions do you have for them? Where are you all gonna rally up? What food do you have set aside? What medical supplies do you have set aside? And I mean, the people that live in Israel, and I'm not near as educated in that geographic area of the world as I should be. But you hear the news lately talking about the bomb shelters, well, safe rooms are calling them, but it's ultimately these people live in houses that have pseudo bomb shelters in them, right? Because they know the reality of the environment that they live in. And I guess I'm wanting folks to be in the conversation, or at least in the thought process of understanding that the environment we live in today is different than the environment we lived in 50 years ago or even 10 years ago. And we need to be prepared for something like that. I mean, there's just bad stuff going on everywhere.
So what does that mean to you? When you say we need to be prepared for that, and I think you make a really good point about in light of, I mean, immigration, and honestly, illegal immigration is not new to America. It's been happening for a long time. It's been happening forever, literally since day one. But
Right.
but the degree to which it's happening now, there's definitely a spike going on here for a few years, and yeah, does that manifest itself in light of all things globally? And I'm kind of obviously working this out in my head right now as we talk. In light of wars and rumors of wars and all the stuff that's going on, how do you think about that? I mean, that's a sincere question I'm asking you. What do you think we should do to be prepared?
So I think and we've had conversations like this before, just cursory conversations. I think you need to be prepared for your bubble, right? And understanding that you got to take care of you and your family and people that are in your immediate circle, because you may find yourself in a situation where you have to shelter in place and sustain for a long period of time until things are safe to move about again. God forbid something like this goes down. There could be active attacks going on in the streets of major cities. They could be targeting public gathering areas and malls and shopping centers, etc. So and it could be a coordinated attack that somehow the signal is given for, and these folks that have been infiltrating our country over the last year or two, and just get that signal and start carrying out, like, I think that's one of the reasons they were able to do so much damage in Israel early on, is because they have a tremendous military and defense system to protect against the kinds of attacks that they knew they were susceptible to. They didn't, or at least it would seem that the way they were attacked kind of slid under the radar, and it's why it was effective the way it was. And it also wasn't a traditional military thing. I mean, it was a straight up terrorist hit, just indiscriminately killing anyone, not just targeting military age men, just women, children, and this all based on a religious basis. And you think back all the history of the world, and the world has been at war forever when it comes to religion, and I think we've fortunately in our lives we've seen that settle down a little bit, and in the last 20 plus years you've seen it starting to crop back up in a significant way.
Yeah, there's so much sort of history, and in that history is just a ton of baggage in both directions. I think it's way beyond just religion. There's much more to it than you talk to anybody on either side of that particular equation, and you'll get passionate, committed, the kind of comments that are so deeply embedded in who they are as people, knowing that the other side is wrong, and they're both saying that to each other. But that's and I'm not saying that to judge that either way, although I do have my personal opinions about where that judgment should go. But the greater point you're making for the podcast is being prepared and maintaining situational awareness in your bubble. I think I like the way you said that, that the bubble that you live in, just be aware if something looks different, if your spidey sense is going off and saying there's something weird in my world that isn't normal, something's happening that's a little bit different, maybe I ought to pay attention. Maybe this is a case of, if you see something, say something. And that kind of thing is and it's probably not a bad idea. In fact, it's a really good idea to just think about your own household and the way that you protect, and think through what you could do and where you could go and who you could call and how you might call, if cell towers are knocked out and so on and so on. So, do you have power? All those kinds of things. That's good.
Yeah, I think we're blessed because of the freedoms that we do have in our country, as far as our ability to arm ourselves and so on. So make sure, don't be a walking potential victim when you're out walking around. If you have the legal ability to carry a weapon with you, wherever it is you're going, carry a weapon with you. Don't leave it at home. It might make a difference between you ever getting back home or not. And that really, obviously it's at the forefront of my mind because of everything that's going on right now. And at the same time, that's advice that I wouldn't change ever. I've always felt that way.
Yeah. You just remind me of all of us. I'll just speak for myself here, but prior to 9/11, there were no major encroachments on our soil where we were attacked by a foreign entity. There's lots of domestic stuff that happened. Right. But being attacked from outside onto our land, and you're right, and we just take it for granted that we live in a safe world, we live in a safe environment, and nothing like that is ever going to happen. And then 9/11 hit. For me, that was a total paradigm shift. It was, oh my goodness, we are being attacked on our own property from within. People infiltrating within and doing stuff that's creating major chaos and major major hits. And you're right. And the thing is, we probably have tailed off a little in our anxiety and our concern, because we're now, 20 plus years away from 9/11. And so how we end up preparing for that is something that we, shouldn't be lackadaisical about. So it's a good reminder, actually.
And you're absolutely right. It's not folks that are coming from outside of our country that are going to do, potentially do harm to us. It's people that are already here that may have come from another country and were unfortunately allowed into our country because of failures in screening, et cetera. Or there's so many things that you can talk about there. But just be prepared. Be prepared, and you could take that and talk about other things in your life too, right? But ultimately, this was the subject matter that I wanted to cover.
Right. Okay.
I think it's timely, right? I think right now we need to be thinking like this.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought it up. Certainly making me think about the next couple of days of my life and what I might do and what I might think. And yeah, it's good. Thank you.
You are welcome, sir. Thank you. I appreciate your time and the conversation.
Absolutely.
And encourage those out there to think about this, as well. Take it to heart and don't just dismiss it. There is a real possibility that bad stuff could happen here at the hands of people that just hate us for who we are as people and as a population and want to do harm to us.
Yeah.
So be prepared.
Be prepared. Yes, sir.
All right. We're done. We can wrap this up.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Graybeard Chronicles. Please subscribe so you'll receive notification when new episodes are available. To learn more about the Graybeards, visit their website, graybeardchronicles.com.